Hey everyone, thanks for joining. We're just going to give a couple minutes for people to sign on. Couple more people. Thanks for joining. We're just going to wait another minute or two for people to sign on. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining tonight. I hope you all can hear me okay. I am coming to you live from the Surf Grove campground in Tofino, but I think the Wi-Fi is doing okay. I see some familiar names in here, but I'll give a little intro to Seakin in case this is your first event with us. So we are a skill sharing organization for water women and non-binary water people. We like to provide the space for people to share their knowledge and skills and for others to come and learn from them. We operate on Vancouver Island, which is the traditional territory of the Nuchilus, Kwakrawak, and Coast Salish peoples. We recognize them as the original stewards of these lands and waters and are grateful that the past, present, and future ancestors have looked after these waters that connect all of us and bring us together here tonight. So I'm very excited to introduce Val. She is, just one of the most stoked people that I've ever met when it comes to their work and their passion and marine life in general. She is going to be talking about her journey on becoming a captain and what we can all do as people that recreate and enjoy the water and how we can responsibly share and look after the marine mammals. So Valerie, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, does it work?
Yeah,
okay.
I can see you.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, Nikki. Perfect. And do you want to wait a little bit more? Are we starting?
I'm admitting as we go, so feel free
Okay. To start?
Yeah,
Perfect.
go for it.
So I'm just gonna share. You need to
Do you have the
allow me
permission to
to.
share there?
No, it said it's not.
I'm on a different computer than normal.
No worries.
So I just have to figure out where.
Could it be like on the video where I'm talking maybe?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
There's like three little
Okay.
dots there.
Yeah, I've made you the host.
Okay. Um, can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So I'm gonna start. Thanks, Nikki. Uh, so like Nikki was saying, just want to talk a little bit about my journey, how I became a captain. I'm captain of a 60-ton vessel in Telegraph Cove, which is our 74 passenger vessel. So I'm just going to go over a little bit my journey, like how I got there, talk a little bit about the woman in the nautical industry, because there's not a lot and we're facing a lot of challenge, and also talk a little bit about whale watching guideline and what you can do when you are on the water for the whales. So first, I just want to talk a little bit about being in Telegraph Cove and really how I got here. First of all, where is Telegraph Cove? It is really north of BC, just before Port McNeill. It's a really small village, and I don't even think village is appropriate. It's really, really small. There's about less than 20 people who live here year round, so it's really small. And as you can see on the other picture, we can see whales from the cove. Just even before leaving the dock, we can already see whales, like you can see on that picture. And you can see the yellow boat in the background. This is the vessel I'm driving this season. And the red building just on the other side is where I'm staying. So I've been seeing so many wildlife from my bedroom window, and I really wanted to share that also because it's pretty amazing place to be. So those pictures were all taken from my bedroom. So the center one is the view I have all the time from my window, which is pretty incredible. And I've been seeing eagles on the other side of the boardwalk, little mink crossing the cove. I saw my third day here a group of about 30 Pacific white-sided dolphin jumping and chasing fish right outside the cove, which was really impressive. And last week, I had my first group of killer whales just outside the cove, just 15 minutes before my trip. I literally like ran down, like jump on my boat and start following them and call the office and being like, call me when everyone's ready, I'm gonna come back. So I was really excited. So those are the T69D, which are a group of trans in orca. So I was really excited. So I was gonna talk on my journey now, how I end up in this paradise. I did not always wanted to be a captain. Obviously, when I was a kid, if you ask me what I wanted to do when I grew up, captain was not on the list. So I just want to talk about my little inspiration in life. I wanted to first be a veterinarian. So Dr. Dolittle was definitely one of my inspiration, and Free Willy movie definitely brought me the love of the Pacific Northwest and the whales and killer whales, obviously, and David Attenborough. Definitely, each time I was watching a documentary when I was a young adult, and the bottom on the left side, you will see like the name of the person and like wildlife biologist or something like that. And I was always in my head like, this is what I want to do when I grow up. So I went in school for this. I did not become a veterinarian, but I became an emergency veterinary technician. And I've been starting to work in that industry 10 years ago. And I am still working as a technician during the winter. And when I finished, it was 3 years of college to do that. And when I finished, I wanted to pursue higher study to do a little bit more research side of things. So I did a bachelor in marine biology. And I always in my head, finish my bachelor, move to BC. And I was clear in my head, this is what I wanted to do. So in May 2017, I sold everything I own, pack a minivan, and travel a really typical road trip across Canada, part of the US. And I ran out of money, so typical thing, went to the Okanagan Valley, did cherry picking for a few weeks, and then traveled on the island. And once I got on the island, Vancouver Island, uh, I knew that's where I wanted to stay. So I love Victoria. So when I was in Victoria, I sent a few resumes in different emergencies, and I got hired right away. That was a really easy process for that. First experience in emergency, never worked in emergencies before, and loved it. It was a big challenge, but it's been 4 years now, and I will not go back to general practice. Really love working in emergency. And I had this thought in my head when I was in college, when I was doing vet technician school, that I could do that as a sideline kind of and work on whale watching boat. And my friend remembered me talking about that, and I never thought that would actually happen. And in March 2018, it did happen. I started working as a deckhand naturalist with for Prince of Whale Watching, which is still the company I'm working with right now. So fun things enough. I started working on it as a deckhand on Ocean Magic 2, which is the vessel you see here, our 74 passenger vessel. And it's 3 years later is the boat that I'm actually driving. Um, so I'm just gonna go over the little step that it takes, or all those different positions I did through the company, and what you need to do to be able to do them. Working as a deckhand naturalist is usually the entry level position, as usually most driver will start by that position if you're obviously in the whale watching industry. So what you need for that is a marine basic first aid and marine emergency duty are the two courses that you're gonna need to do that position. And basically what you learn in those courses is how to react in emergency, what are the emergency you get encountered when you work on a boat, so fire on board, flooding, stuff like that. And you learn a lot about passenger control, life raft, and those kind of emergencies. So pretty good knowledge to have, really good first courses to know if you will like to work in the marine industry as well. And when you need to be a naturalist, or what is a naturalist? Naturalist is basically someone that's really passionate and they talk a lot. It could be about anything. When we're on the boat, yes, obviously we talk about the marine wildlife that we're seeing, but I love talking about the ecosystem and talking about the different islands that we see around us and all the history of the area. So it's also really important to talk about that. So that's basically what you do as a naturalist is you educate people about what they're seeing. So you need a lot of enthusiasm and passion because you repeat the same thing every day, 2 to 3 times a day for months or years if you stay for a long time. So if you're not passionate about it, it will not work. And obviously you need a good ability to speak in public because you can speak to really larger crowd. And I have a strong French accent. So that was definitely a really big challenge for me when I started, but I think I work on my accent a little bit and it's a little bit better. I knew I wanted to drive boat, and it's mainly what drove me to go for Prince of Wales because they have a lot of different size of vessel and they have Zodiac, which I really wanted to drive. So my first winter, I started training on Zodiac over the winter, and by the next summer, I was driving Zodiac. So I'm just gonna go over a little bit what you need to be a Zodiac skipper and a little bit of the quality that you also need. So SVP is the first course for commercial driving. It's a 5-day course. It's only theory. There's no actually practical stuff that you're doing. You're not driving any boat. They give you a certificate and you're allowed to go drive 12 people up to 25 nautical mile offshore. So yeah, you should definitely do some training with experienced skipper, but it's not part of the course. It's a really easy course to do. It's 5 days, and it's a really good introduction of all a little bit of regulation around boating and like boat handling and stuff like this. So it's really great first boat course. And the ROCMC, which is basically the radio course. They have to do like how to operate the radio, how to call the radio, emergency, Coast Guard, all those stuff like this. So I did those 2 course trains on a Zodiac, and a few quality that I think a Zodiac skipper should have is fast decision making. You're working on the water, things can change really quickly. um, I always say it's like driving on the highway, except your highway is moving and throwing logs at you. So you have to be constantly on the watch, constantly look at your surrounding. There is no basically like road that you're following. Boats can come from any direction going everywhere. So definitely need a lot of focus, good knowledge of the weather. Obviously, the weather can change pretty quick during a day, so it's not a rocket science. So things can change. So being able to read the water, it's something that's also really important, and staying calm under pressure. There's a lot going on at the same time because you have your guest expectation, the safety of your guests, the being able to maneuver the boat, and you need to find whales. And when you find the whales, you need to follow the regulation around them. You need to talk to your people because when you work on a Zodiac, you are the naturalist and the skipper. So definitely a lot going on at the same time. And yeah, so that was it for driving Zodiac. And now Master Limited 6 to 10, that's the other course I did to be in the position I am right now. And so definitely a lot of more courses that you need to follow. I did chart work and pilotage at Commerson College. I went 3 weeks in college for this course. And navigation and safety is the exam that you're going to be learning all the regulation, all the rule of the road, how to behave on the water. So definitely really important exam. I just challenged it. So I studied on my home. I went to Transport Canada and did the exam. You need 60 days of sea time. So 68-hour day, which is really easy to get if you work as a deckhand for one season. Usually one season, you have more than enough hour to do your 60-10. And the famous oral exam with Transport Canada, which is basically you go sit in a room with an examiner from Transport Canada, and they can ask you as many questions as they want for about an hour on everything you should know by now, and everything you learn in all those different courses. Definitely really intimidating. Definitely one of the hardest part to become a section captain is this exam. And I write down plus or minus SVMO, which is basically the machinery operator course that you can do. You don't need it to drive a boat. So you do not need any mechanical knowledge to drive boat, which is a misconception that people has. I do highly recommend it. I haven't done it yet, but it's something I want to do because you are responsible for the vessel. So knowing the mechanic of it, it's something that's really important. But you basically just need to know when something is not right. You don't need necessarily to know how to fix it, which is different than when you do USVMO, then you have way more knowledge of it. So definitely something that it's to keep in mind that could be really important to do, but you don't need it. And yeah, a few quality for a good captain. At this point, if you're driving a bigger boat, you have crew, which is the main difference between Zodiac and bigger, larger vessel. You need to have really great leadership skills. Like to teach is your responsibility now that your crew is efficient and they learn more and they grow in also their role. So something that's quite challenging for me in this position. Never been really in a leadership position, but so far so good. I think we're having a lot of fun and learning all together. Hope my crew member agree with me. And clear communication with your crew. Uh, you need to be, I'm sorry, there's like a few people that are getting admitted. Being calm and confident, you're in charge of the emergency, you're in charge to take all the decisions. So there's no time to panic, no time to yell at your crew. It's something that's super important. Good judgment skills, both handling skills at this point. They should be really good at this. It's a big vessel, more can cause more damage, and obviously the same quality that you need as a Zodiac skipper. So yeah, that was basically a little bit all the different stage I did to get into the position I am right now. And something I really wanted to talk about during this talk is the women into the medical industry. I did not find the numbers for women in Canada specifically, but I found numbers for worldwide, and I was shocked. I knew there was not a lot of women working in the industry, but the IMO, which is an International Maritime Organization, said that 2% of the world seafarers are women, which is extremely small. And 94% of them work in the cruise industry. And they can know the exact number because of all those certification that you need to do. They are registered. So Transport Canada have all our information, and like worldwide there's different organization, and that's all classified, so they can know exactly the numbers, which is shocking. I'm pretty sure the number in Canada are hopefully a little bit higher than this, but it's definitely still really low. So that's one reason why I wanted to do this talk and talk about it, to show women that, yeah, you can do it, and to encourage women in doing so. And the IMO know that there's a big gap, and they need more workers in this industry in general, so they cannot ignore women, which are 50% of the population. So the past 30 years they offer program and scholarship for women that want to be in, mostly in the shipping industry, which is the area that they have a bigger gap. And here in BC, Commonson College offer a fully funded bridge watch program through the Ocean Protection Plan for underrepresented group such as women, Northerner, and First Nation. And they even go the length of, if you're coming from out of town and have to stay in Victoria, they pay for your food and your accommodation, which is pretty incredible. And this is basically the program of a few certification. I don't remember exactly which ones, but you can see them that on your on their website, and it's really great program if you think that's maybe for you, but you're not sure. After following that program, you will definitely have a good idea, and you'll be ready to work as a deckhand right away after following that course. So it's definitely an awesome program. So I also wanted to talk about my experience being a woman in the industry, but I also asked a lot of different women that I know, uh, that are close friends, or really just people that I know that are driving boat, that I contacted to have their story, because I didn't want to share only my side of the story, but really like a global idea of what it is to be a woman in the nautical industry. So basically, I had a lot of like, I was really supported by the company to grow and get hired ticket and keep going. And so unfortunately, in the whale watching industry, it's probably not the same for any other industry. You are not paid to train. So you train on your own time. So I did a lot of training on Zodiac on my own time. So I did about 30 ride along. So 30 times I went out on a trip with another driver to learn different sea condition and learn everything I needed to know. And by the summer, all the skippers were saying, "Oh, you're ready. Stop training. I should just drive boat by now." And they were telling me I was ready, and I felt like I was ready. And there was a charter that were going out in the company, and they had two boats going out, and they did not have a second driver. So like, I can do it. And they say no. They did not let me drive, even if everyone was saying that I was ready, and I was shocked. I was really surprised, but I pushed back and really frustrated by management. And then I sent management all my training. So every time I train, I log the sea state, the wind, where we went, what I learned, and with which skipper I was for every single night trip. So I sent that to management, being like, "Hey, look, this is what I learned, and I think I'm ready." And they were really impressed by that log, and they signed me off. And they were like, "Okay, good, like you can drive both." And after that, I did not have any issue with the company driving both. So I had a little pushback, but after that, I had no trouble having trips and no trouble driving the boats. In the past 2 years, I've been wanting to work in Telegraph Cove. I've been wanted to be a mate on our 60-ton vessel, but it's a small crew, and with COVID, they did not need extra help for the past 2 years. And in January this year, I emailed management again. I'm like, what about Telegraph Cove this year? Do you guys need a mate? Because my 2-year plan is to still drive Ocean Magic. And we had a meeting, and my boss is saying that it's still going to be really quiet this year in Telegraph Cove. And she looked at me and she said, the only way you could come here is if you drive this the Ocean Magic. And my reaction was actually, you want me to do what? It is a huge step between driving Zodiac and driving a 60-ton vessel with a crew under you and an engine room. And like, it's a really big responsibility. But they offer to train me full time in Victoria for 2 months. And if things were going well, I would be going to Telegraph Cove and be driving this season. So I was shocked, I was stressed, but I was like, that was my 2-year plan. I shall try it. So I told them I would give it a try, and things went obviously well. And yeah, here I am driving. And when I drove the boat here, Casey Brand came with me for 10 days, and she helped me to get more driving in. So thank you, Casey. And thank you, Bill Moore, that will train me in Victoria for 2 months. Definitely give me a lot of this time for that. So that's my side of the story. Like I said, I got really supported by the company I work with, and they were behind me on every step. Got a little bit pushback, but after that, I was really great. So just kind of like gonna talk about and read a little bit the story of a different woman that I asked, and obviously all anonymous. I didn't want to say their name. So one of them, she worked her way from the office all the way to the boat, telling management that at some point she wanted to drive boat. She did countless hours of training. She logged all her training hours, the same thing that I did. Uh, when it was time for her, she was like, I want to drive boat. I'm ready. It was a hard no. She was completely pushed back. They were telling her she was not determined enough, despite all the hours she had. She stayed with that company for 4 years, and then keep like training and keep trying to be a driver. And on numerous occasions, they hire men that had no previous experience that were trained on the spot and drove over her. So she quit. She said she's not done fighting, but she want to fight somewhere else. That was not worth her time. Similar story. One of the other women I asked, she started to train as a driver. She felt that the company was not listening to her, that she was not taking seriously at all, and so that she thought right away that it wasn't worth it, and she moved from another company. And the manager was a woman, and 100% had her back. They said, oh wow, you already trained a few hours, and they let her train more, and she became a driver. So she was really supported by that company, which is really awesome. And I'm like, that's the thing, if you have so much pushback from one company, I was like, do you really want to stay there? Just go try to find, there's a lot of other company out there that's gonna like support you. One other story, that woman grew up in the interior, and she always thought that driving boat was inaccessible. But she moved to BC. She started working as a naturalist, which is really common things that people do. And then she was really keen, and she was really supported by the people that she was working with. So she did all her courses to do her 60-ton, and after 2 years, she became a 60-ton captain. And as soon as she was ready to drive boat, same thing, big pushback. She was really surprised. The management of the company were really stating, and she got a lot of people being reluctant. She succeeded to drive for that company, and then went to do higher study and came back in the industry on and off. And she had always a lot of reluctance from people to drive larger vessel, and she never really heard by any of the management why. But one staff member one day did tell her that the owner felt that the passenger will not feel comfortable having a female captain, which is infuriating. And that was one of the reasons she didn't get that job. And certainly I've seen it, and I have that came out a lot with the different women I talked to. passenger not judgment, but like the that skeptical look when they get on board. I definitely had it in the past. I had guys going down the stairs and Victoria and being like, hey, look, there's a woman driving our boat, and having those little, those small little comments, and finishing the tours in rough weather and being having men looking at you being like, wow, good driving, like, and being impressed that a woman can do it too. Which is, there's more and more women there is in the industry, and in higher position, the more it's going to be just accepted that there's a woman that can be driving. And one of the other women was saying that her biggest day-to-day challenge was coming also from guests. Um, she said that one day she had a comment that someone said, oh, now I see why we're wearing survival suits, which make her extremely mad. That doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's, you always have those kind of comment in the back of your head. And I definitely feel that pressure as well when I'm driving, to not make mistake, because I'm a woman. I need to be better. I need to prove myself. I feel like I have to prove myself all the time. And talking with other women, they feel a bit the same way as well. And one woman that I talked to, I wanted to absolutely share one thing. She got refused a job, and the reason was, I'm sorry, our boat aren't set up to have women on board. She said she was overqualified for this job, and she did not get it for this reason. Which is, we came from far, but there's still a lot of work to do. Obviously, there's still a major divide in the industry between women and men. Uh, One other woman said she worked for two companies, zero pushback. Everyone was super supportive, and she had no issue, which is awesome. Good stories are also incredible stories. And all the women I did talk to are driving industry, so definitely there's a lot of also happy story. And if you look at ecotourists, government job, Coast Guard, there's a lot of women in those industry. So definitely they are a little bit stepping forward and encouraging having women working in those fields. But if you look at tugboat, marine mechanic, fishing, definitely it's male dominated. There's not a lot of women working there. And one other woman said something that I thought was really well said. So I'm just going to read what she said. She said that she feel we need more women in the industry to normalize having women in those kind of position, to lift each other up and build each other career. In such a traditionally male-dominated industry, it is important to have women in management role to give everyone equal opportunities. I think there still remain a lot of unconscious or conscious bias against women in the marine industry, but definitely getting there. And we do see more and more women stepping forward and fighting for themselves, which is amazing. So I wanted to show those badass women that I know that are all working in the nautical industry and all pushing boundary for all of us. So just wanted to point them out because they are awesome. And that's it for about like my journey to become captain. So I hope you guys I really like that. So I just gonna go a little bit over what we can all do on the water to help the whales and the marine mammal that we cohabit in our water. Because if you're area like Victoria, Vancouver, a little bit very everywhere along the coast. There's we share our water with so many species, especially here in our island. Definitely, you cannot do 500 meters without seeing a marine mammal, which is awesome. You should all come visit. And so, yeah, MERS has a logo here that says "See a blow, go slow," which is easy to remember. And if you see a blow, you're usually really close to the animal. So reducing your speed is one of the main thing that you can do to not disturb a marine mammal. I'm going to talk about it just a little bit later, but the sound that we're making on the water, it goes with the speed. So the the fastest you go, the more noise you're doing underwater. So reducing your speed is definitely something you can do to help a marine mammal. So most marine mammal, you need to stay 100 meters away, which is pretty close. If you consider 50-foot humpback whale being 100 meters, it's pretty close. So it's not that big of a distance, but the studies show that by keeping that distance and a slow speed, you don't see any change in their behavior. And been doing that for 4 years. It's true. I love seeing whales from shore. It's one of my favorite things. And I love that I see them doing the same behavior that I see them doing while I'm on the boat. So by following those guidelines, definitely it does make a difference. I seen boat going fast beside whale because I didn't care, or because I didn't know that it was a whale there. I definitely seen a change in the whale behavior. For killer whales, their regulation are changing a little bit every year. Uh, from Campbell River all to North Ucluelet, you have to stay 400 meters away from killer whales, and this is the law. And a lot of people don't know that. It used to be a guideline, and the whale watching industry have been doing those exact guidelines since the 1990, and they only become law in BC in 2018. Which is really not so long ago. I'm really happy that there are no laws, so everyone should be respecting them. Because the southern resident orcas are extremely endangered, and most people cannot make the difference between bigs or transient and the resident orcas, they decided to put it 400 meters away from any whales, any killer whales. From Campbell River to North Ucluelet, which is where you find the southern resident orcas. But as soon as you pass Campbell River, this is now the northern resident orcas habitat, which the population is way more stable, doing way better. So now you can be 200 meters away from them as soon as you leave that area. Obviously, whale watching has a special regulation. They are allowed to be 200 meters away from transient orcas because we are trained to be able to make the difference between the two ecotypes that have in our water. Can just say it, but most people probably know the southern resident orcas or the fish eaters that eat mostly salmon, and the transient or bigs are the one that eat marine mammal that are doing way better. If you don't know what 100 meters is or 400 meters is, the the government of Canada had those beautiful pictures. So it's basically one football field is 100 meters. So you know, I'll know about how long it is. So that gives you an idea of the distance, which is quite a far distance, which most people don't respect on the water, giving my experience in the past 2 years. So it's really important to educate people, educate boaters. If you go out with your boat to do any kind of water sport, you need to be aware of those regulations. This is your responsibility. And I think it's the best way that you can protect whales is by doing this. And this explain also the speed around whales. So when you're within a kilometer of a whale, you need to slow down your speed to 7 knots. And I did not find the exact number, but I think it reduced the sound impact by tenfold when you're going 7 knots instead of going 20 plus knots, which most boats go. So really a difference in the sound impact that you have in the water. So keeping your distance and reducing your speed, definitely the best way to not disturb an animal. And by doing that, I don't see a change in behavior. And I've seen both going full speed, close to humpbacks or close to killer whales, and usually it induces a dive. So that animal will be disturbed and will just dive deeper to get away from the noise. And this is a behavior and loss of energy that they did not need to do. Orcas use sound in every aspect of their life for hunting, socializing. Uh, it's really important. They can see through sound basically. So it's even more important around orcas to reduce our speed and really keep our distance. And something I want to show, because it's quite impressive, is a sentinel action made by the whale watching industry. So we have a map that we can log when we do sentinel action. So from May 6th to June 6th this year, the 117 sentinel action were logged, which is a lot, but it's good. So that means that people are taking it like seriously, that they are trying to educate boaters about regulation of the water. 58 of those incidents were a vessel coming in at high speed that they tried to communicate with that vessel to tell them and that there's well in the vicinity that they should slow down. Um, and then you can see all the other incidents that were here. Some of them were just waving their arms. A small fishing vessel that are coming full speed, you sometimes don't see the name, so you cannot call them on the radio. And 8 of those incidents, they had to put their boat between the boat coming and the whales. And I been there before. Last year, I've been there. We were with a group of killer whales, and there was a small little boat, but coming full speed exactly where the whale were. And we were two vessels on scene, and we turned our vessel. I was standing on my seat on the Zodiac and waving my arm, and that boat never stopped, passed on top of the whales, and the orca, one of the females, surfaced at the stern in his wake. So she was probably coming from a surface as that boat was passing on. This is the closest call I've seen. Uh, and this is extremely dangerous for the person on the boat and for the animal. We do have a lot of humpback whale who have propeller marks on their back, and one has been hanging around San Juan Island. Yes, today I think actually it has two separate markings of propeller mark on their back. So it can be really dangerous for the whales, but can be really dangerous for you also on your small boat going full speed on top of a whale. So a good thing though is 75 of those incidents, they got call on the radio, waving their arms or anything worked, and the boat just changed its behavior. So they really avoid going full speed on top of the whales, which is amazing. I did myself call sometimes tugboat or a big shipping container coming if there's like 50 unpack on their way. It's really hard for them sometimes to change their lane. They are on shipping lane, they have to stay, but they sometimes just deviate a little bit, just enough to go around those whales, which is really amazing when everyone is helping. And if you guys want to report your sightings, it's something that's really important for research. You can report on different places. Happy Whale, which is the top image that you see here, it's pretty amazing. You can send them your photo and where you saw the animals, and they send you an ID. So they can tell you who do you see. And then when you click on the ID, so this is in Ukshuk, which is common whale here, you can see that it was seen reported 12 times around North Vancouver Island and also go in Mexico. So it's always really cool to see that information. And this is information shared by different countries, basically the US and Mexico, and then Hawaii also, or part of where humpback whale go. And you can do that for any kind of whale that you see on the water. And you can report it through Happy Whale, which is pretty amazing. Some number, if you see an injured animal, unfortunately, we see a lot of sea lion entangled in plastic or fishing gear. Recently, a humpback whale near Nanaimo was entangled in crab gear, and the owner of the crab gear saw the whale entangled when they look at their crab trap and called the FO right away, and they were able to untangle the whale, which is great. So that's the number you can call, and you can report your sighting. There's a BC Cetacean Sighting Network app. Then you can always report your sighting, and that helps our research to know where the whales are and what they were doing. And obviously, in your daily life, it's things that you heard over and over, but they are really true. Using eco-friendly natural product, basically cleaning project, everything you flush down the drain, most of it end up in the ocean. Our filtration system is not efficient, and most of it end up in the ocean. So being really mindful about where you flush down the drain, it's something that you can definitely do in your daily life. Boycotting fish farm salmon that are really awful for our ecosystem. A lot of pollution and disease that are spread out in our ecosystem. Boycotting Chinook salmon at the grocery store. This is the main diet of our southern resident orca. So, they need it way more than we do. Buy local and organic, it's a big thing. Reducing shipping pollution and pesticide. It was a fun thing during COVID. Everyone was like, oh, the ocean must be so quiet. There's no cruise ship. There's nothing coming on. And like the ocean is so quiet. What do you think people did when everything shut down? Everyone bought everything online, and everything online comes by those shipping containers that are extremely loud on the water. So definitely there was more shipping traffic actually than prior to COVID. So even more loud ocean. It was the completely opposite that happened. Banning single-use plastic and changing our habit of buying bulk and reusing containers and stuff like this. And I just talked to my friend Megan, who did the ocean cleanup. So basically, they went out for 6 weeks to do beach cleanup northern BC, and she just gave me the final number, and I think it was something like 200 ton of marine debris were removed from the coast. So we can do better, and we can reduce our plastic. It's really one of the main thing, and follow the well-wise regulation. It's really something that you can do to help our marine wildlife around here. So that's it for me. If you guys have any question, happy to answer them.
Thanks so much, Val, and I wanna say thank you, especially for your vulnerability and sharing what it is like to be a woman in the industry, and, I mean, getting other stories and perspectives as well. I think, yeah, you really did your due diligence there. It was
Yeah, I
great.
was just like, I just don't want to see like my opinion, because I maybe it's not everyone's opinion, but I was happy to see that everyone was pretty much thinking the same way, that we're coming a long way, but there's still a lot to do.
Yeah. Do you find it's something like just working in the industry, maybe not at your own company, but having friends and peers and stuff? What is it like from the peers who aren't women? Are they supportive? Do you at the peer-to-peer level,
Yeah, so I
is there
just
still
I just
a
do
wall
feel there's less expectation for men driving. So not that they're not less supported, I think, but there's just less pressure on them to do to do good or to do better. So like I was saying, a few example that people just do they just show up for the job and like, oh, I have the course, but I never drove a boat before. They were like, oh, we're gonna show you. And then like after 5 days of driving boats, I don't think you will see that for a woman,
Yeah.
basically.
There's already that kind of instilled confidence, just because of gender.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
That's really interesting. I've seen that in, outdoor guiding and stuff as well,
Yeah,
especially anything that requires physical strength and they show up and they're like, "Oh," from the guest perspective and they're like, "Oh, a woman." It's like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely. I seen that a lot. How woman, and I seen it in rough water. Remember that trip. I had a lot of big guys, and definitely I could see that they were a bit skeptical. And we had a pretty rough trip. And I had a trip advisor review that day that was saying like, "Captain was amazing driver," which is always good to see. You can see that it changed at the end of the trips.
Yeah. Do you think there's things like people who aren't in the industry, like, that we can go out and, go out of our way to support women in the marine industries? Like, is like things like leaving reviews and telling companies we wanna see more women captains? Like, is
Yeah,
there
definitely. And you'll see the Zodiac manager for our company. That's all he wants. I was like, you just want women. You just want women driving. They're like, they're more thorough. They're more careful. They're more like, so yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it's just talking about it. I
Yeah,
think it's like when the woman was saying she thought it was inaccessible, and that's a lot of thought that women have. They think it's a men's job and they think it's inaccessible, and like having more women, I think talking about it, and like another was saying, just having women in higher level also in the marine industry just make it easier to step forward and being like, hey, I want to do that too.
yeah. I think there can be a caution or a fear of harassment as well if you
Yeah,
know it's a male-dominated industry.
yeah, no, definitely. It's more
Something
intimidating. Like I was really intimidated when I started, because I didn't know anything too. I never worked on a boat before, and like it's quite crazy that like in 3 years I spent like zero knowledge of boat to
Yeah.
driving a 74 passenger boat.
Fast-tracked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
awesome.
work hard. I work really hard. Mm, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Allie,
so
did you
awesome.
have a
Yeah.
question for Val?
I just want to say thanks. That was really great and super inspiring. And it's cool to hear that you had no experience at all. And like you seem really confident and, solid in your role. And it's just super
Thank
inspiring
you.
to see. I've grown up on the water on the Great Lakes. I've been a kayak guide for the last 3 years. and I got my SBOP in the fall, and I'm like, I haven't even made a phone call to anybody yet about driving a boat, but it's what I want to do, and I just don't even know where to start. It's really intimidating.
It is, but do it. Like anywhere you want to work, just you had the qualification, yeah, the eager to learn, just do it.
Oh, it's where I'm meant to be. So it's a matter of time, but yeah, it's uncomfortable. Like it really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, and it's also facing something that you're not good at. I'm like that too. I hate learning a new job, and I was even telling that this year, like I'm done learning. Like I want to like cruise in this position for a while because I feel like the past few years has been like a huge learning curve all the time. So I want to learn more about mechanic at this point, but I just want to be good at this, and
It's
it
something
is
so
like
bad.
that for any kind of job. Learning a new job is always intimidating, but if it's what you want to do, just I'm like, you have one life. It's not like the YOLO thing. It's cheesy, but it's so true. So I'm just like, do it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thanks for that. I had something else to ask, but I forgot. Maybe just a more technical question. When you're doing your logs and everything, do you have any guidance for what to log? Like, is there any format or anything that you're supposed to follow? I don't remember learning anything about that in my classes, and I feel
Yeah,
like,
no, Captain Log is just really something that's important to have. It's kind of a backup if anything happened. And for me right now, like I still have a log for my Zodiac hours or my Ocean Magic hours. It's basically at this point, it's mostly if a client call back and being like, we didn't see anything on this day, it was really crappy. I can go back in my log and being like, no, actually we saw this and we went there. So for my logs, what I do, and I usually write down the date, obviously, the sea state, weather. So basically the wind, which direction, where I went. So basically the big line of where I went. And then when I was learning, I would be like, today I learned how to operate the GPS and the radar, how to do a waypoint, or like how to drive the boat in a beam sea
right.
or following sea, or how to move the throttles in like that type of wave. So that was my
Mhm.
training, and which skipper was with me that day. And now it's mostly like example today. I haven't looked at it yet, but I would be like, oh, I went to Donegal Head. I saw a sea otter turned into Blackfish Channel. We had 4 humpback. Sea state was super calm, and like like just what I see basically where I went. That's mostly what I log. Or if anything happened, like something went wrong with the boat, or I could also put it in there.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank
And
you.
it's a great tool to have. It's actually mandatory now. I'm trying to, I mean, I'm working with other coworker about having a more consistent Zodiac training, and the log is part of it. So you can know what the people learn and where they are at in their training.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And interesting to hear about the difference between like men and women's training as well. Did you find that you lacked confidence as you were training? Like, did you feel that you needed all the training? It sounds like you got to a certain point where you're like, okay, I'm ready. And
Yeah.
did you feel that you needed a little bit to get your confidence?
There was like my last 10 trips. I was probably good to go. I
Yeah.
just, as long as I was not signed off, and so we're not busy really until July, and
Mhm.
they already have 4 or 5 driver at this point. So I was the 6th one in line, so I didn't feel the rush to get signed off either because they didn't really need me. So I just kept going out as much as I can because you never stop learning. So the more you go, the more different sea condition you get in, and the more you learn. But I will say that if they had needed me probably like a few trips prior, I probably would have been okay. But there's no, and that's something I think is really important. There's no timeline about learning and about how you feel already. You might do 6 trips and be like, I got this. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I know how the boat react, and you just like you're good to go. And you
Yeah.
can do 60 trip and being like, maybe one more, and that's okay. Like there, I don't think it's a lot of a responsibility, and I don't think it should have a timeline.
Yeah, and I'm out in
Yeah.
Ucluelet, so it's a little hairy out here, weather-wise.
Yeah, and I mean,
Hate it.
depending, like if you train in September, you're gonna have like no wind, glassy water the whole time. This is not good training. Train in the winter. go out in the
Yeah.
winter. This is fast forward
Great,
training.
actually. Yeah, I'm kind of late in the season to get started now, so we'll see what happens. But I'm going to inquire, and I know there's a company who's looking for a deckhand on a larger vessel, so I think that might be a great place to start for this summer, just to get
Yeah.
out there. And
That's definitely a great way to start, because then you can learn the ropes of like just working on the boat, the industry, and then like slowly make your way up.
yeah, and I'll be kayak guiding as well, so I'll be out there in a couple different ways. But yeah, cool.
Yeah, kayak guiding is awesome. Like here, a few my coworker, a guy from North Island kayak, and it's amazing. It's good for learning to read the water. It's amazing
Yeah.
skills.
Actually, I was out there for 5 days last fall, and it was like, you're in a beautiful spot. We paddled out of Telegraph Cove, and like, holy magic.
Yeah, well, the most beautiful place in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm saying that coming from Euclid. So like, if you guys haven't been, the rest of the girls in the chat, like, go there. It'll rock your world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
As soon as Val was like, I'm watching whales from my bed. And I was like, okay, see you soon.
Yeah.
Oh, when I saw killer whales, I yelled and cried, and I got so excited that I blocked something in my back. Yeah, that was me. I'm still super excited.
Nice.
Callie, do you do trips out to the Broken Group?
Yeah, I'm actually we're doing our staff training tomorrow. I work for Hello Nature. So we're headed out to the Broken Group tomorrow for a little staff trip. And
It's on my list.
Oh, nice.
yeah, it's a pretty special
Oh.
place as well. So Broken Group
Yeah,
is
it's on my list to go paddleboarding.
yeah.
Magical. I need to go back.
Yeah, if you guys are in Euclid, look us up, or me, happy to share the ocean.
And if you need some hype people for your applications, just send us a note and we will be there for you.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. I'm supported by a good community. I can't complain here. I just got to find the confidence within me to get behind get my hands on the wheel,
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is like, yeah, it is intimidating, but the more you train, the more comfortable you get.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Val, for people that don't have access to Zodiac, like you were saying, that initial training, it's not hands-on. Is there kind of like a driver's ed program where you can
No,
rent?
I wish actually. I should maybe start that company. And no, there's not. So you have to be trained at the company you work for.
Okay.
And every boat is a little bit different as well. So it's good to train on the boat you're actually going to be driving. Like we have 5 different Zodiac in Victoria, and they're a little bit the same, obviously, but they all have their little twists that are a little bit different. So it's definitely good to learn the boat you're going to be driving. But no, there's not. I'm not aware of place that you can learn to drive except the company you'll be working for.
Yeah. Well, there you go. New business idea, someone.
Yeah, that's
That's a
great idea.
For the
one-
distance regulation.
Yeah.
Sorry, Callie.
Sorry, that's
lost
okay.
you
I was
for a
just saying there's maybe one company in Tofino that does hands-on wheel training, but it's like super, super expensive.
Yeah, I bet.
It's like $4,000 for a week or something like that. It was just like, it was a
Oh,
lot.
wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
pretty unachievable unless you're kind of supported in some way. So
yeah. Val, and then those regulations you shared with us, those distances are no matter you're swimming, in a boat, on a paddleboard, those are the
Yeah.
distances for everyone.
Exactly. Those are good for any type of vessel, and kayak, paddleboard are considered vessel. Same thing for sea and sea lion, you need to keep 100 meters away. Obviously, if you're paddleboarding, turn a corner, there's a lot of seal. It's like out of your control. And I like to also emphasize the fact that we try to keep 100 and 400 meters away from the whale. They don't. And whale are not afraid of boat. And I don't know how many times that I'm following the regulation and following the distance, and then they went on the dive, and I have a lot of training, a lot of time in the water. I can pick up like whale behavior, little turn that they do, and I know where they're going most of the time. They're a wild animal. I have so many times whale just pop up beside my boat, being like, "Where do you come from?" So they're not afraid of the boat. So we try really hard, and I've seen even straight watch, which are basically a small little zodiac that go out in Victoria. That their job is they work for CETUS, and their job is to educate boaters about whales. So they go where the whales are and they stop the boat that come around to educate people about those regulations. And I've seen whales show up beside their boat, and they're usually like 500 meters away, and they're not even looking at the whale. They just talk about the boaters, and the whale decide they're going there. So we try really hard, but the whales don't care. And sometimes, especially orcas, they can get really curious. So we try our best, but then when it happens, try to just shut down your engine, then pass, enjoy it, and then you can keep following
Yeah.
them. Like I
And if
had,
you're on,
yeah.
maybe you can chime in here too. If you're on a kayak or a paddleboard, what's the best practice? Just again, just stop if they approach you.
Kayak, usually like if you're on a group, just raft together and just let them pass. And a thing that I see in the past is both seeing the whales coming, or kayak seeing the whales coming from a distance and paddling in their way and then stopping to have the whale pass under their boat. This is not okay. This is a way that you're also going to induce a behavior, create a stress on an animal that absolutely don't need more stress in their daily life. So I always say, like, really try to stay along their side. So if you see that the whales are coming, I just turn your boat so they can pass beside you and don't have to dive under the boat. Obviously kayak sometimes is hard, but I definitely see
Got it.
kayaking whales coming, and they start to go in their path, so they will pass under. And it was what we used to do in the whale watching industry. If you go back a few years back, when there was no really guideline, you were going far ahead and just shutting down, so you were not making noise on the water. But it's still the fact that there's a boat in their path will induce a dive. So that's why the regulation did change, and now you cannot do that anymore. Well, you can, it's just illegal.
And seals and sea lions, it's 100 meters.
Yes. So there's a lot of controversy about diving with sea lion because of that regulation. Um, Obviously, if you're paddleboarding or kayaking, um, it's hard to avoid, or like you just upon like there's a hole
Yeah.
out right there. You don't really decide that, but even when I see seals on shore, I try to really go around and go a little bit away from them, because they're quite nervous, and you're probably seen it paddleboarding in the past. They jump in right away. Seals are way more comfortable
Yeah.
in the water than on land. So when they are scared, they go in the water, which is maybe not the smartest thing to do for them, but that's what they do. So that's disturbance for them. And it's really hard to avoid. And I've been going way off to that scare seal and still jump in. So it's really hard as a kayak or paddleboard to avoid all those kind of situations.
Yeah. One behavior I've noticed, I don't know if this is common, but there's a cove of a seal colony where I frequently paddleboard and I try and give them room, but it's almost like this magical line, and as soon as I cross it, like two of them will flank me until I've passed that area, and it's almost like having like two little followers that are like,
Oh,
okay, we're just making sure that you pass through. See you
I only
later.
have like 100 of seal following me. And that guy said they are scared when they're on land, but extremely curious when you get in. So even if you go snorkeling in the area under seal, they can come right to your face, because when they're in the water, they are a little torpedo, they are easy to maneuver, and they're not scared. But on land, they need to up on their belly and they cannot get away. So they feel very vulnerable. So that's why they jump in the water. But once they're in, they get really curious and yeah, following you. And I mean, you cannot really start paddling away from this seal at this point. He's coming to you. Um, they're definitely curious, and I have no idea what that behavior is. I don't know if they're just keeping an eye on you, make sure you're not a threat to them, and they want to see where you're going, or they're simply just curious.
Yeah.
I
And
think they're
it's
jealous.
pupping season right now.
Please do not
Maybe.
take baby seal. or baby deer or baby anything. Just leave them where they are. Mama seal or mama deer can go away for hours at a time and hours at a time. And if she sees you beside her baby, she will abandon it. So leave baby seal alone unless it's like emaciated and barely breathing. Then you can bring it to a rescue center. They're gonna fly it to Vancouver. It's also a lot of money to fly seal to Vancouver. So don't touch baby seal or baby deer. Working in emergency in Victoria, we are a drop-off center for wild dog. And on the dozen of baby deer I got, only one had a low blood sugar. So all of the other one had a normal blood sugar, which means mama deer fed that baby not so long ago. So yeah, unless you see that deer for 12 hours in a row without you losing sight of it, without this mother, they're fine.
Awesome. Good to know. Does anyone else have any more questions before we wrap up for the evening? All right, that looks like that's it. Val, thank you so much for your time and your expertise and for, yeah, just sharing all of that with us.
Thank you. If you guys ever come to Telegraph Cove, I know a really good captain. Come and say hi. Thank you.
Awesome. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.